Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones. Faulkner University announces a 60% tuition discount for members of the Church of Christ. Now, there are some guidelines. This 60% tuition reduction is applicable to adult undergraduate Bible degrees or graduate Bible degrees from the Curley Graduate School of Theology in the VP Black College of Biblical Studies. You must satisfy all admission requirements and maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must remain continuously enrolled, including summers, until the completion of the degree. You must provide a letter from an elder or minister, preferably on church letterhead, verifying that you're an active member of a Church of Christ congregation prior to your initial enrollment. This offer applies to adult undergraduate degrees such as biblical studies, youth and family ministry tracks, and it also includes graduate degrees. And those are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry, or a Master of Theology, and it also applies to the PhD in Biblical Studies. For undergraduate inquiries, please contact Adult Enrollment, 334-386-7140, 334-386-7140, or Adult Enrollment at Faulkner edu. That is Adult Enrollment at faulkner.edu. For graduate inquiries, please call 334-386-7539, 334-386-7539. Graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. That is graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. It was 2016, and it was talent night at Audrey Kell High School. Mike Senatori walked onto the stage at Charlotte, North Carolina High School and flipped a water bottle in the air, and it landed on its bottom. The resulting celebration the eruption of the crowd in the auditorium, and the video went viral. And the rest, as they say, is history. 6 years prior to that, it had just been a stunt on a game show called Minute to Win It. But when Senatori stuck the landing and the school auditorium erupted in celebratory chaos, people fainting in the aisles, throwing money onto the stage, women passing out, tossing babies in the air, that chaos resulted in such that every teenage boy in the entire civilized world had to prove that they could do it. And thus proving also that if everybody can do it, it's not that special. But it created a craze. It created an epidemic. And it was super, super popular. So I decided that since it was popular, I was going to reproduce the phenomenon as an object lesson for a series of skits that we were doing at a large youth conference. Now, this is a group of guys that I work with, and we travel around and we do values-based entertainment. We call ourselves the SWAT team, and that stands for Skits with a Truth. And I was working with them way before I ever met the other SWAT team that I work with. And as often I say and is repeated, you don't want to get the two groups confused. You don't want to let the guys who do skits rescue hostages, and you don't want to let the guys who rescue hostages do your skits at your youth rally. You'll lose both your jobs. So this was the height of the bottle flipping craze, or as it came to be known as the flipping bottle craze, depending on how you feel about the phenomenon. And the idea was to have one of these bottles, and just during the show, during the series of skits that we do, have the team members just casually interact with the bottle and not really even be part of the skit. You know, two guys might be having a conversation. While they're having a conversation, one guy reaches over and flips the bottle. Later on in another skit, somebody would walk on the stage with a bottle, and just before he left the stage, he might flip the bottle and have it land. In an average set, our team will do 20 to 23 skits in a 45-minute presentation. And so my vision was to introduce the team members one at a time onto the stage, have them come out and flip a bottle, and then eventually end up having this bottle show up in several of the skits. And then at the end of the show, finally at the end of all the skits, the spotlight would come on, and you've got this lonely little bottle sitting on stage in the spotlight. Just a lonely little bottle. And somebody would walk by and tell it wasn't good enough and toss it up in the air, hoping it would land on its side, but it wouldn't. Somebody else would walk by and say, hey, you're not just smart enough, and toss the little bottle off the table, and instead of landing on its side, it landed straight up. Somebody else would walk in and look at the little bottle and say, you're not just faithful enough, and toss the bottle. And you get the picture. Eventually, the message was, no matter how many people walk by and tell the little bottle you're not good enough, smart enough, faithful enough, you're just not enough. But with each disparaging comment, they toss a little bottle or knock it off the table, and it would land upright. And then after that last final landing, that little bottle lands upright. Read the verse from Romans 14 that says, who are you to judge someone else's servant to his own master? Servants stand or fall, and they will stand, because the Lord is able to make him stand. The only problem is, do we have enough time for these guys to become proficient bottle flippers? Do we have enough time so that our success rate is such that when they walk out on stage and flip this bottle, that we get more landings than we do crashes? And then you start wondering, well, what's going to be the acceptable failure rate? What's going to be the necessary success rate to make the point we want to make? And then what happens if you're the guy who's supposed to do the last bottle flip? If you're the guy who's supposed to land this little bottle and close this skit out, what happens if you get a stage gremlin the last night of the show, or the last skit of the show, and the bottle, just for whatever reason, won't land? Sometimes those kind of things happen when you're in front of 12,000 people. There's a lot of pressure, and when a stage gremlin gets a hold of you, you can't get your line right, much less perform some kind of fine motor muscle skill or fine muscle motor skill where you get this bottle to land. And so now I'm thinking, do I even want to try to do this? Because this could be an abject failure if somebody gets on stage and there's a stage gremlin and the bottle won't land. And then I remembered J. Mitchell Reed's advertising catchphrase: Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Where is my Cookie Monster Weeble? And how did those things work? Now, if you weren't a child in the 70s, you don't know anything about Weebles. Weebles were these little egg-shaped toys, and they had the perverse ability to stand up no matter what you did. It, it was a miniature version of that inflatable punching bag thing, the punching bag that always looks like some kind of a scary clown. And no matter how hard you hit it, it would just bounce right back up. No matter what you did to it, you could kick it, you could punch it, you could throw it, and when it landed, it would bounce back up. Well, Weebles were the toddler toy version of this thing. And they had all kind of shapes and all kind of names and all kind of designs. They were made by Play School and marketed by Hasbro. And from 1971 to 2011, there were 116 different types of Weebles. But how did they work? If I could just find the Cookie Monster, I could maybe figure out how this thing worked. It turns out that the design of the thing places the center of mass very, very low and just a little off center, allowing gravity to return them to an upright position no matter what else happens to them. The key design features are shape, distribution of mass, and the slight misalignment of symmetry. Not a complete misalignment of symmetry, but just a little off the symmetry line so that it'll always stand upright. The curvature of the bottom allows for easy rolling and easy movement. That way there's not some bump or some divot in the bottom and they get stuck. The mass is such that the heavier bottom keeps the center of mass low and it promotes the stability. And the shape is almost like a cylinder, and it's cylindrically symmetrical, and it ensures that the center of mass is always on the vertical axis when it's turned upright. So when you push the thing over, the center of mass is temporarily raised and shifted off center, and then gravity, acting like gravity does, shifts the center back and pulls it back towards the vertical axis. This action always causes the Weeble to roll back into an upright position rather than falling over or staying over permanently. Now, all that scientific mumbo jumbo, yada, 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 turns out that if you take a tennis ball and you cut it open and you pour 500 BBs in it, and then you take a half a bottle of Gorilla Glue, you've created the low mass center of gravity. Now, to hide the tennis ball, you simply cut a green Mountain Dew bottle in half and you place the Mountain Dew bottle on top of the tennis ball, and then you got to camouflage that. You could camouflage it with masking tape. You could probably camouflage it with enough paint. What we ended up doing was just wrapping our bottle tennis ball combination in these green stickers, green frog stickers from a Mexican restaurant called Don Jose's in Forest City, Arkansas. And so we camouflaged this bottle and altered its appearance so it looked like a normal bottle. But in fact, we'd invented the perfect Weeble flipping bottle, or flipping Weeble bottle, depending on how you feel about it. This normal looking bottle, aside from the Don Jose stickers, cannot, and I mean it's been thoroughly tested, it cannot remain on its side. One can flip it, toss it, drop it, slide it from the table, spin it, push it. You can walk out on the stage and lay the thing down on its side and it will stand up. It will return to the standing position. With this, man, we couldn't miss. The guys threw that ball around the stage all through the skits with reckless abandon. They dropped it on tables. They dropped it off tables. They kicked it. Didn't matter what they did to this little bottle. This little bottle withstood, and stood with the situation. And when we finally got to that last ending skit, it went off without a bobble. Mechanical equilibrium. That's the term. Mechanical equilibrium, and that's actually engineer speak for Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. They can never permanently lose their balance. Now that's interesting. They can never permanently lose their balance. Not that they can't get pushed over. Not that they can't get off center. Not that they can't even wobble temporarily. But they cannot permanently lose their balance. They are designed not to stay down. They are designed not to stay down. Spiritual equilibrium. We are designed to be internally stable And we are designed to be eternally stable, such that no matter the outside force, the force of nature, the circumstances, the trials, the tribulation, the temptations, the interaction with people, difficult people, we should not permanently lose our balance. We are designed to be internally and eternally stable. Now, I lose my balance when my shape stops conforming to the original smooth design. I'm supposed to be in the image of God. I can lose my balance when my mass is weighted more toward the physical than it is the spiritual. I can lose my balance when that symmetry fails, and I'm more in symmetry with the world than I am in symmetry with God. When I fail to align on my vertical axis, keep your mind on things above, that's when I lose my balance. Now, please understand, we can wobble. We do wobble. We can fall, and we do fall. We can even fail. But our design is such that we always stand back up. Spiritual equilibrium. We do not possess the capacity for perfection. And it is not that we are not designed to fall. We are not designed to stay down. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3W's and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.